Hi, welcome to AmateurLogic.TV, episode 26. I'm George.
I'm Tommy.
And I'm Peter.
We've got a fun-packed episode for you today, don't we, Tommy?
Oh, we always do.
So, to get things started out here, I've got an email from our friend Frank N7FF. And Frank writes, as a follow-up to the segment that I did previously from the bench on soldering a PL259, and he said he ran across a suggestion in QST recently that he had to go back and read twice because he just couldn't believe it himself. And what they suggested is you place a drop of oil in the holes of the PL259 before soldering it. And I have to say, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard too. I don't think I would do that. But Frank says that he tried it and that he was amazed at how well it worked. He said the soldering went really well and it actually was cleaner looking when he got through. So thanks for that tip, Frank, and I'm going to give that a shot next time. We'll just see how crazy it really is. Tommy, you got an email there?
Yeah, I do. I've got one from our friend Ron, WD8SBB. Ron says he's downloaded the small WMV version and he fell asleep halfway through it.
That must have been during my segment on soldering.
Soldering was pretty popular. Anyway, he said he downloaded the high-res version and it's working fine. Not sure what's happening. He has to play with it some more. Thanks again for your labor of love. Thanks a million to me, Peter, and George's efforts. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's. But what happened, we had a failed upload for one of the files.
Yeah.
So if you downloaded the small Windows version and you had trouble playing it, we've re-uploaded it a couple days later and it's good to go.
That was episode 26, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Peter, have you got an email?
Yes, Tommy, I've got an email here from Doug, KI4YVI, and he writes, "Gentlemen," I think he's referring to us, "I just finished watching your most recent episode and noticed that you mentioned that it can be hard sometimes coming up with topics for the show. I have an interesting bit of radio ham history that is little known. Have you ever heard of the On the Roof Gang?" I can't say I have there, Doug, but what about you, George? Have you heard of the On the Roof Gang?
No, I hadn't either, not until this.
Doug continues, "They were trained as radio interceptors for the Navy and the Marines back in World War II, and most were ham radio operators as well. The link I provided, that's www.nsa.gov, has the last few names of people that are alive and their call signs. I think this would make a neat historical segment since so few know about it. They were an essential part of COMINT, Communications Intelligence, back in World War II. Well, we'll consider it for a segment there, Doug. I had a look at the website too, and gee, that's quite a history there of quite a long history. It could well make a movie out of that."
Yeah, that was really interesting too, Peter. You know, my father was in World War II in the Navy. He got stationed in Hawaii, but it was after Pearl Harbor, so he didn't really see combat there, but worked on a lot of airplanes. And I've got an email here from our friend Ron, W9EF. And Ron wrote that he enjoys watching our shows and that he most enjoys the On the Bench segments. And he'd like to see us demonstrate how to build a 4-to-1 ballon or a 1-to-1 choke or a quarter wave matching stub. And you know, that's something we might do at some point. I haven't done any of those yet, and I could use one of each probably.
Actually, so. Yeah, actually the ballon would come in pretty handy right about now.
Yeah, it would. So thanks for that suggestion, Ron. We'll look a little further into it. And Peter, what have you been working on down under this time around?
Well, like many of our viewers and yourself, I'm a big solder smoke fan. And recently, Bill M0HBR set up a WSPR beacon. So I thought I'd have a closer look at that. Hi everyone. Today we're going to look at a mode called WSPR. I first heard about this mode from the Solder Smoke podcast, which is hosted by Bill M0HBR, who's currently in Italy. Bill set up his own beacon using the WSPR mode, and he's been getting some great results from it. So I thought we'd have a look at this mode and see what it can do. WSPR is a digital mode that sends your call sign, power output and grid locator in a very slow and narrow band 2-minute long transmission. It operates within a 200 Hz window on each band and is about 6 Hz wide, so there's plenty of room for multiple stations to operate concurrently. Each 2-minute transmission starts on the even minute, and each station can be connected to a central internet server to share information about who's hearing whom. It is very important that each station's system clock is calibrated correctly so that it starts sending at the correct time. To calibrate your system's time on a Windows box running XP, click on the System Time and a box will appear. Click on the Internet Time tab and select a time server. If you then click on Update Now, your computer will update your system time by communicating with the time server through the Internet. You can then download and install the WSPR software from the following link. You'll need to compile the software if using Linux. These are the items you'll need to run WSPR: a HF SSB transceiver, preferably digital, a computer running Windows, Linux, NetBSD or OS X with a 1.5 GHz or faster CPU, at least 100 MB of RAM and a serial port. Your computer sound card should also be capable of a 48 kHz sample rate. Finally, you'll need a sound card to radio interface. These are available commercially, or you can visit the following link for plans on how to build one yourself. The interface will plug into the microphone and audio out sockets on your sound card, the serial port on your computer, and finally to the microphone and headphone sockets on your HF radio. We're almost ready to start transmitting, but we need to select which band we're going to use. So select Band on the menu and pick a band. For example, let's pick 40 meters. The dial and TX frequencies on the left-hand side will automatically update when you change bands. The dial frequency is the frequency you should set your transceiver on. The TX frequency is the actual frequency the WSPR transmission goes out on and is about 1400 to 1600 Hz higher. The white bar with the red dial at the top of screen shows the 200 Hz bandwidth you are operating in, and the red dial shows the last 3 digits of your transmitted frequency. You can change your frequency by clicking to the left of the white bar. The TX fraction bar in the center of screen shows the percentage of time you want to be transmitting as against total time. For example, if you set the bar to 20%, you will transmit 20% of the time and receive 80% of the time. Generally, you can set it below 50%, and if operating for long periods, you might set it at 10% or 20%. There is a system clock on the left and a status bar on the lower right, which is telling you what the program is doing at any point in time. There are also 2 sliders for brightness and contrast. A waterfall display will appear in the black box on the top left at the end of each receiving session with a timestamp underneath. Received stations will appear in the blue box at the top right, and the reception details will appear in the large white box at the bottom of screen. There is a tune button on the right of screen for setting your transmit audio levels, and an upload spots box in the center of screen which selects whether you want details of WSPR stations you receive to be uploaded to the central internet server or not. I would suggest that you have this box selected. When the idle box on the right hand side of screen is selected, the program will not transmit. Once you unselect the box, the program will commence alternatively transmitting and receiving in 2-minute blocks. Finally, when receiving, the received audio level will appear in the bottom left-hand corner of screen. You should set your sound card and/or transceiver volume so that the received audio shows about 0 dB. Let's now look at the results of a recent WSPR transmission session. A few days ago I transmitted 10 watts of WSPR on 40 meters for several hours. The WSPR net website has a Google Maps style display which shows a world map of stations with lines showing who's hearing whom. My 10 watt signal was heard by a number of stations in North America. WSPR-Net also has a text database of the same information. One of the stations that heard me, K1JT, is 16,589 kilometres from Melbourne, Australia. Not bad for 10 watts. Well, that's WSPR, a great new low-power beacon mode.
Tommy and I should probably try to listen and see if we can pick it up here.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Well, why not? It's very easy to set up with a computer-to-sound card interface. Once you've got that set up, you can work a number of different modes, including slow scan television.
That was great, Peter, and definitely something we should listen for here. Tommy, have you got another email, maybe a follow-up to a previous segment you've done?
I do. I've got one from my friend Jeff, N8NOE. He said he saw episode 25 and wanted to pass this along. Obviously, he's talking about the one where I mentioned switching over to Macs for a lot of stuff. Sent this link, www.machamradio.com. Said there are plenty of Mac hams out here, and there's a Yahoo group, Mac APRS. Said there are all kind of people there for, discussions for all kind of Mac stuff, ham radio stuff. So anyway, check out the link. It's pretty interesting. It is a lot of stuff there.
I've got an email here from Richard, K3UI, and he enjoyed episode 25 very much. He asked, do you send out alerts when you have a new episode? Well, we have an RSS feed on the website, so if you subscribe to that, you'll get notified when a new episode comes out. He also suggests, have you thought about a segment using a piece of equipment like the MFJ259B to build tuning stubs for HF? No, I can't say I have. I've never built a tuning stub. Have you ever built a tuning stub, George?
I haven't ever built a tuning stub with 259B. I built some years ago, but it sounds like a pretty popular topic now. Maybe something we should look further into.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we something else to look into.
Yeah.
We sort of ventured out in becoming social media giants. We have a presence on Facebook and on Twitter now.
Yeah, y'all dragged me kicking and screaming.
Yeah,
Facebook
it was a painful trip, but he finally made it there. So anyway, search for us on there, Amateur Logic, and you can also find the link right about there. We're also on Twitter under Amateur Logic, so you can find out things that we're working on, new releases coming out, things like that. So pretty fun stuff.
Yeah, and you can see comments between us back and forth as, Peter doesn't live in town here.
Photo Tips lives again. Anyway, I've had several emails from it, and been working on something kind of fun. Time-lapse videos, pretty interesting way to create them. Anyways, pretty easy. So,
yeah, let's have a look at that.
Yeah. Hi, this is Tommy. It's been a while since we've had a photo tip segment. I actually had a few emails requesting some, so here you are. Been playing with something kind of fun. Thought some of you may find it interesting. I'm sure you've seen some of the time-lapse videos where a large span of time is compressed into, a few moments, seconds, minutes, or whatever. It's a pretty easy way you can do that with some free software and your digital camera function that's built in. If you don't have the function built in, there's an external device that you can buy to supply it to most of them. It's an intervalometer. An intervalometer will allow you to take pictures at a specified period of time unattended. Let me show you the one on my Nikon camera here, how it works, and that'll give you a little bit better idea. Under the camera menu settings, there's an interval timer shooting option. I'm not sure if you can see that very well, but we'll go into there, and it asks you when to start. We'll say now, and the interval in hours, minutes, and seconds. You can see I had it on 2 seconds. I guess you can see that. It's pretty small. And go down here to how many shots. 999 shots times 1. What that is it'll take a sequence of 999 and one picture each time for each 2 seconds. So you could have it fire off 2 or 3 in succession each 2 seconds if you wanted to. So we're just going through there. Go down to the start, flip to on, hit the OK button, and she'll start taking pictures until you stop it, or until it hits the 999. If you don't have an intervalometer in your camera, you can search on eBay and find some. I think I've seen them from $20 to $100 something, and they're real cheap. And actually, the external ones are probably a little more flexible than the one in my Nikon. As I said, it can only take up to 999 shots without restarting. So I went out to the reservoir. Weather's kind of bad, as you'll see in these samples, but I took quite a few pictures, about 20 minutes worth, and put it together in a little clip. Let's take a look at how it's done. Okay, as we said earlier, making a time-lapse video out of all these picture files is a pretty easy process. We can do it with some software that we can get free off the web, and the software works for either Windows or Mac. We're going to load up QuickTime Player. While that's loading, let's remember that we took we took one picture every 2 seconds for about 20 minutes. So let's keep that in mind as we take the next step. Let's go to Open Image Sequence on the File menu and work your way around to where you store your files, and double click on the first one. Just single click on the first one. And here's where we need to make a decision. When you pick this frame rate at the bottom, that's going to play back however many frames of your video you created at the rate you created it. So if we play back 2 seconds per frame, it'll be 2 seconds before the next one is displayed, and that's way too slow. I played around with this earlier and I liked the results from the 15 frames per second, so let's go with that. If you don't like it, it's easy to scrap it and just pick another one and go back and preview it, as you'll see here in a few moments. We'll pick 15 and let's click open. So what that means is every 2 seconds we created a picture, and we're going to have about 7 pictures per second, and that's going to give you some good stop motion in between. It's a nice compromise. Like I say, it's a matter of taste. Just play around with it and see what you like. This computer's a lot slower than the Mac I'm used to doing it on, so bear with me. Okay, so this is our image that we took. We'll make this half size just to fit it on the screen. Actually, we need to make it smaller than that. Fit on the screen. And if we preview it, you'll be able to see what it looked like. And it's pretty choppy with my screen capture software running. So anyway, as you can see, it's made. You can play it back, see if it suits your taste. There's no audio. Obviously, we took it with a regular camera, so there's no audio. When you get finished, export it. And the beauty of this is I took it with a 4 megapixel digital SLR, and we can actually make HD video out of it. So what we'll do is we'll go through and pick the settings, and I like the H.264, and I like to pick high for the quality, and frame rate. I usually do 24 frames a second. That's what they do movies with now, and making 29 for something like this is just kind of a waste of space. The files are going to be fairly large anyway. We'll go pick size and HD 1920 by 1080 if that's what you want. No need to deinterlace, and we'll leave that off. Click OK, and we have no audio, so let's click that and And in a short time, you'll have a video file. That'll be 1920 by 1080. And then you can load it into your favorite video editor and add an audio track to it and put it on the web or do whatever you want to do with it. As you can see, it's pretty easy to take time-lapse videos with your digital camera, put them together, and end up with a pretty nice high-definition video. You can render that video down to any size you want, upload it to the web or whatever, as I said before. Anyway, go out and have some fun with it, and if you put something together with that, send me a link. I'd be interested in see what you've done. Maybe we'll show it on the show sometime. I hope you enjoyed the photo tips segment, and there'll probably be some more to come. I'm not sure we'll do them every month now, but as I come up with some interesting topics, we'll definitely throw some in.
That reminds me of some experiments that Jim and I did back in the 70s.
Yeah, there weren't any chemicals involved in mine.
That's all I can really say without having to shoot you.
Well, anyway, they're a lot of fun to make, man. They've become really popular here lately. And anyway, I hope that some people try it out and send me some links to some of the stuff they've done with it. I'll be interested to see it. Yeah, people seem to be getting back into photography again. Yeah. Yeah. It's coming around. Well, here I want to mention a new podcast. I guess it's not really new, but it's been around for a little while. But our friend Kirk, he's got one at www.thisweekinradiotech.com. You guys ought to check it out. It's pretty interesting stuff. Yeah, that's part of the Twit network, Leo Laporte's group there. Yeah. I was interested to see Kirk had made that contact and got on there. Yeah, he's a smart guy. You can pick up some good stuff from him. Yeah, I've listened to a couple of them, and he's got some really great engineers on there, and particularly if you're interested in broadcasting, you'd really pick up something there, I'm sure. Yeah. Peter, have you got any more emails?
Yes, I've got an email here from an old friend of ours, Jimmy N5SPE, and he writes, Make's yearly open source hardware guide is now online with over 125 projects in 19 categories. The creators of all of these projects have decided to publish completely all the source schematics, firmware, software, bill of materials, parts list, drawings and board files to recreate the hardware. They also allow any use including commercial. In other words, you can make a business making and selling any of these objects. This is similar to open source software like Linux, but hardware centric. Well, Jimmy, I had a look at the website and it's impressive. Lots and lots of different projects in a lot of different categories.
Well, Peter, I've got a link here for some open source hardware projects and kits and things like that. www.jaminco.com. They've got some pretty nice information there for open source stuff. Yeah, a lot of nice do-it-yourself projects on there. I saw 2 or 3 things I might want to build myself. Yeah, they make some good segment material probably too. And it could possibly show up in a future segment. Yeah. Well, what kind of trouble you and your soldering iron been getting into this month, George? Well, actually, we got into this sometime last year, I think, but I've just now got around to documenting it so that we can show our viewers a little bit about it. You know, my favorite rig is the Kenwood TS-2000, and you know, I think for the money and for the features it's got, it's hard to beat that rig. You get just virtually everything all in one box. But let me put a little disclaimer here. Don't try this at home because it will void your warranty, and you'll probably destroy your radio if you don't know what you're doing. But that said, if you do know what you're doing and you feel competent with it, by all means go ahead and do this. It's a great little mod that came from Martin, LA8OKA. It's available on the ham.dmz.ro website, and he shows you how to tap into the 12 kilohertz IF of the Kenwood TS-2000. Here's how you do it. It's pretty simple. If we look at the schematic of the TS-2000, we'll find a buffer amp for the 12 kilohertz IF that's suitable for tapping for other purposes. Between the emitter of Q42, the buffer amp, and capacitor C21 is where we'll tap, and we'll put a 1 microfarad capacitor in series with our cable there for DC isolation, and the positive end of that capacitor will go toward the radio. We'll flip the radio over and remove the bottom panel, and we'll find chip capacitor C281. We'll need to disconnect the end of one ribbon cable and fold it out of the way
so that we can get to the capacitor. Now the cable plugs into a connector on the motherboard, and the connector has a little tan piece of plastic that you pull up on to release the cable before pulling it out. And then when you reinsert the cable afterwards, you'll push that piece of plastic back down to lock it into place. You'll want to use shielded cable for this mod. We'll attach the center conductor to the negative end of the 1 microfarad capacitor, and we'll connect the positive side of the capacitor to the end of C281 that is nearest the front of the radio. Be sure to use heat shrink tubing over the capacitor and the leads to avoid shorts. And we'll connect the shield of the cable to a nearby screw for ground. We'll need to get the end of the cable out of the rig somehow to make a connection to it, and the guy who originally did this mod chose to use a spare pin on the ACC2 connector. The way I chose to run the cable out of the rig is through the hole that would normally be used for the 1.2 gig antenna, since I don't have that module in the radio and don't plan to add it. Now the gray cable here is 12 kilohertz IF cable, and you'll connect that to the left and right inputs of the sound card that you plan to use. Now the black cable you see there is something that we'll talk about in the future.
Well, that looks easy enough to do. I could probably do it. How do you use it?
We'll use WinRAD for testing of the 12 kilohertz IF mod on the TS-2000, and we'll start the program. I've already selected the sound cards and sample rate and all the other options. So we'll start it. And the first thing we notice is it looks like a carrier right here in the center, and we see a lower sideband and an upper sideband. Although we're listening to sideband signals here, we've selected the lower sideband mode. So what we'll do is zoom in so that we're just looking at the lower sideband here. And we'll scoot over the display a little so we're seeing a good part of the passband. And we're listening to a conversation going on here at 38 to 32 on 80 meters. There's a guy talking right now. Down here in the lower portion of the screen we can adjust the bandwidth. Let's open the bottom end on up to where it's close to 0 hertz here. And we're currently about 2.4 kilohertz wide. Let's widen that out on a little. We see that there's signal a little bit past that on some of these guys. So we'll grab it and slide it on open. There's 3 kilohertz right there, and I don't think any of these guys are wider than that. So you can hear there's lightning tonight.
Just a
And you can hear a little noise in the background there, so we'll turn on noise reduction.
down here 20 years. I can call
And
them
that
up
quiet
there
things
and tell
down a
them,
little. Way down the band here we can see that there's another signal. Looks like around 7 kilohertz below us. So let's click down there. And yeah, there's actually another conversation going on down there. We can see up here in the waterfall display just a little bit of it, and that's way off the side of our passband here, so the signal is attenuated quite a bit. We also see a couple of little lines here in the display of the waterfall. If we go up and listen to that, we can hear that's just some kind of noise or data going on there. So let's go now and see if we can find any AM signals on this morning. There's one right there. Let's switch to AM mode. And let's switch over to synchronous AM. It'll take a moment to lock in on the signal. And it's pretty much found in there. Now we're listening at 3 kilohertz. Let's open up our bandwidth a little more.
Magnifying lens, a lot of patience, and
now you can tell this guy's got some bandwidth.
This was a good project.
This is listening a little over 5 kilohertz wide here, about 5.5.
Yeah, now I'm probably getting another project and try to to work something that would be high level.
You can see the carrier right here in the center,
We'll see
and the modulation
where we
in
go
the
with
lower
that,
and upper sidebands.
JL in Richardson, Texas. This is KP4RS in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Now I zoomed out a little, and we can see some sideband conversations going on down here. Alright, the synchronous receiver is locking on to the other guy on the AM conversation now. He's not quite as strong. Guy down in West Palm Beach was really strong tonight. So that's it. We can actually see the frequency that we're on, and we can see what's on either side. You can hear there's a sideband conversation right here trying to kind of chirp in on them, so we can narrow up the bandwidth. Take that on out, and it's gone now. And you can do this with any rig, not just with the TS-2000 and this mod to it. You can run just straight audio in just as easily as you could run an IF signal into your sound card for this purpose. Let's turn on the noise reduction and see what it does with the AM. Quietens down some of the static and the background noise. Let's slide up here and listen to these guys who are on sideband right now. Actually, these look a little more active here. They're about 7 kilohertz below. Switch over to lower sideband mode here. And there's somebody throwing some tones or data or malicious interference or something to that conversation. So that's it. Using the 12 kilohertz IF mod of the TS-2000 and WinRed. That was a lot of fun doing, and I hope some of you enjoyed it. But the next time we talk about software-defined radios, I'm going to show you something that'll blow you away.
All right. I'm ready to get blown away. That's really interesting stuff, man, because, you know, as much as I like those 857s I bought, I've been wanting a radio with better DSP, and it doesn't really get much better than that, I don't think.
Oh, well,
it gets pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good, but we'll blow you away next time.
Okay.
And by the way, here's the link for WinRed in case you want to pick up that software. You know, you can use it with any audio that you can feed into it from any rig. You just want to make sure that you got the bandwidth for the receive set as wide as you can, so you're giving WinRed more to work with.
Quick, ask me if I have an email.
Tommy, do you have another email?
I do. I have one right here.
Peter, do you have any more emails?
Sorry, George, I'm right out of emails.
I've got one from our friend Joe, K0OG. That's almost could be a tongue twister. Anyway, he said he learned of our AmateurLogic.TV archive of videos. Anyway, he saw episode 25, particularly my Echo Max segment, and said he's used it occasionally, although he's mostly a PC user. He asked for ideas for other ham radio software available for the Mac. He sent me this link for something called FLDigi. It says, much incoming application on all platforms for digital communications. Compiled versions are available for Linux, PC, and Mac OS X. That's a free open source software, so the source code is available for modification too. You can get it from http w1hkj.com. Take a look at the OS X version. He thinks I'd be impressed. And I did take a look at it, and it looks very nice, although I haven't had a chance to.
What is it? What does
it
actually do?
It's along the line of the Digital Master stuff that comes with Ham Radio Deluxe.
Cool.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. So anyway, I do hope to try that soon.
Okay, well, I've got one last email here, and this one comes from Smurf. Not Smurf, Smurf.
Smurf?
Smurf. He says, hello, AM Logic crew. I could write 4 pages worth of praise for you and your show, but I'll keep it short. Great job. I found AmateurLogic.TV while looking for info on a hobby about a week ago. And I've had a blast watching all the episodes. We're glad you did, because, you know, if we go to the trouble to make them, we want people to watch them.
My mom's getting tired of being the only one.
Mine too. So, anyway, we're glad you enjoyed it. He said after failing to get his ticket in the early 70s, he gave up and focused on his music career, and has made his living for 40-plus years, mostly on stage as a drummer and as a front of house and monitor mixer. And, well,
Cool.
I'm a drummer myself. I didn't make a living at it, though, so
Yeah.
probably a good thing. Anyway, I'm glad he was able to, though. My son plays bass for a living so far, and
Yeah.
I don't know how long he'll keep doing it, but he's been at it for better than 5 years now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
more
he's good,
power,
too.
Yeah, more power to those who are able to make their living at music. It's a hard life, and the rewards are not as great as you would hope, because only a few people can really make it to the top. But if you can make a living at it, then you're doing good.
Yeah, you know, I think if you make a living at anything that you like doing, then you're doing good.
You are.
Anyways,
Yeah, you are. He said now that things have slowed down a little bit, we're getting ready to move out of the city of 260,000 to a town of less than 500. Sounds like a little town like I grew up in.
Yeah.
Now, since it's rural, I decided to go back and try to get my ticket. Since code is no longer required, I think I'll do fine this time, and I've been testing myself, and he gave us some links here, some different places that he's been going online to learn, you know, and prepare for taking his test. And he also wanted to mention the great downloadable Ham Academy 6.01 software. Anyway, he says that he kind of lives in a valley, and there's one repeater in the area, but it's behind a ridge, and he's looking for some kind of setup that he can use both for his bass and his vehicle, and he wants to know, what should he do, 2 meters, 10 meters, or something else? Or would you get a handheld and use an external antenna, or stick with a mobile and a power supply, or what? What do you
Man, I
think,
remember every one of those questions running through my head when I was first getting started thinking about taking my first test.
Yeah, what would you suggest?
I would probably suggest, well, like pretty much what I did. I started out, well, actually, I started out with a handy-talkie, but
That's what I
I hooked it up in the house with an amp,
And
35
yeah.
amp, 35 watt Mirage amp.
I'd forgotten that, yeah.
Yeah, and then I had an antenna hooked up outside, and it was pretty versatile. I could put the thing in the car, use it in the house. 2 meters, 70 centimeters, what I started on.
Yeah. What would you recommend, Peter?
Yeah, I'd agree with a 2 meter handheld. You can use it for voice or packet, and you can always add an external antenna to give you a little bit more range if you want.
Well, and I'd probably go just slightly contrary to y'all two on that. I don't think my first rig would be a handy-talkie, and it wasn't. It was a 2 meter mobile rig. Jim and I got licensed at the same time, and we both rushed out and bought 2 meter mobile rigs. All the time, everybody telling us, no, get a dual band rig, 2 meters and 70 centimeters at the same time. Oh, what do we need that for? Well, in less than 3 months, I was buying a dual band rig. So, me personally, I prefer having a dual band mobile rig, and then you can use it in the house, or you can use it in the mobile, take it back and forth. But you'll probably get tired of that after a while.
Yeah, well, I did the same thing with my dual band handy-talkie.
Yeah.
5 watts didn't really cut it too well, so got that amp pretty quick after.
Yeah, well, I really enjoyed having the mobile rig, and so that's how I started out. And he's also asking here, well, before I go any further, yeah, I would agree with Peter and Tommy both. Start at 2 meters and 440, and then move into HF later, unless you just want to start out talking, you know, to people in other states and other countries. And in that case, yeah, maybe look at HF. But he also said, you know, you can only use attic space for an antenna, and it's about 15 foot high inside there at the peak. And he's wondering about wire antenna setups or the tack antenna. He says maybe it looks like a better choice for his limited space. And using a tuner with those. Well, I've never used a tack antenna, so I couldn't really comment on how that might work out. Wire works great for HF. Of course, if you're going to go on 2 meters and 440, you're going to need something besides a piece of wire. And there's plenty of antenna plans out there to build your own antennas, or you can buy them cheap enough. If you're going to get into HF, then yeah, the wires would work good for HF there. And of course, you will need a tuner for that. And he wants to know how hard it would be to use a wire and how many frequencies could you get out of a wire. And well, you could use what you've got, Tommy, for that.
Yeah, off center fed, but he's going to need a little bit of space for it.
Yeah, and unless his house is 130 feet long, there probably won't be room for that.
Yeah.
So. But wire antennas are pretty easy to hide outside if you just be a little creative. You might find a way to do that. He's not really looking for equipment endorsements. He just wanted some good thoughts and see what we've taught him.
Yeah, the 2 meter 440 antenna, there for a long time I lived in an apartment. I used a homemade quarter wave. It actually works on both.
Yeah, well, I used a homemade quarter wave myself. It's real easy to build, just a little copper wire and a PL259 connector. And it makes a decent little 2 meter antenna. It's actually resonant on 440. However, the pattern's more like a clover leaf on it, so you will have some holes in the 440 coverage.
It did work, though. So.
It did work, yeah. And then, if you're looking for a cheap antenna, well, you can build that for a couple of bucks probably.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for that, Smurf, and we hoped that you learned a little something you could use there.
Yeah, good luck on your test.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck on the test, and I believe you'll do it this time around.
Oh, no doubt.
Well, that's it for episode 26 of AmateurLogic.TV. We hope that you've all enjoyed it. Tommy and I will be attending the Capital City Hamfest here this weekend in Jackson, and
yep.
Hope to bring back some footage from there that you'll see in a future episode.
Yep, got my shopping list ready, got my checkbook out, and I'm ready to go, man.
I've got my shopping list ready, too. I hope I don't have to dig into the checkbook too far, though. So, from here, 7-3, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.
See ya.